Lord of the universe, Soul of the universe, O personality of the form of the universe, please, therefore, sever my tie of affection for my kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. Here in this verse, there is a word therefore, Ataha. Rani starts this particular prayer with the word Ataha, and the Acharyas comment that this is like the summary, the final conclusion of her prayers. From verses 17 onwards, after expressing all her thoughts and prayers, finally she is asking for something, which is a very clear. In these three verses, she is directly asking for something, some kind of a benediction after making all her prayers. So she is saying this word, therefore. So it is a very, very conclusive section. And in order to see whatever she has prayed so far, because mainly she wanted to actually pray that why Krishna, like what is the nature of the supreme absolute truth. She had actually expressed about the nature of the supreme Lord, how we can actually understand the supreme Lord. Basically she said, okay, in order to, because the Lord is inconceivable, how can we actually make the Lord understand conceivable? How can we develop a relationship with the supreme Lord? That is the whole prayer in one sense, is all about how can I actually develop my relationship with the supreme Lord. He is inconceivable, he is the supreme, and he is only known by great Mahamsas or renunciants or pure advanced souls. How am I to actually understand you? So that is the whole thrust of the prayer so far. She began with saying, chanting the holy names of the Lord should be the, or is the first step in the process of understanding the Supreme Lord. It contains the seed of love, because all she's actually explaining is how can I actually love Krishna. So the first step is then chanting his names. And she also emphasized the point that serving him in his deity form, which is full of beauty, and cast off the sense of ownership in the material world. That also she spoke about elaborately. And also trying to see God's mercy is behind all events of life, whether good externally or bad, difficulties or nice things happening. Whatever has happened in life, seeing that Krishna's merciful hand is behind all the events in life. That is also one qualification she was giving in order for us to be able to love Krishna. And also, she mentioned about remembering the pastimes of Krishna and trying to see how his unlimited love manifests in his activities in this world. It is very difficult to actually understand the avatar, why Krishna comes, and more than that, that he can actually engage in pastimes, be it being a small baby stealing butter to killing opposing kings or dancing with the gopis. It's a wide variety of activities, and it is very hard to understand like why is Krishna doing that. So the more one actually chants and worships the deity and develops gratitude for Krishna's involvement in their lives, and starts to see that, remember Krishna through his Leela and appreciate his Leela in this world, and also realize that Krishna comes here in this world for various purposes, but the sole purpose of Krishna coming here is to actually help the conditioned souls remember, hear, and recount and remember the pastimes that he performs in this world. That is the main purpose he comes, so that we can actually develop love for him, and also as a byproduct become free from the material bondage. So her main thrust of the prayer is how can I actually develop a relationship with Krishna, and the path that she lays out in her prayers is chanting, deity worship, developing gratitude to seeing Krishna's hand in all events in life, and remembering and appreciating Krishna's pastimes, and also understanding the main purpose of Krishna coming here itself is to actually awaken the love in our hearts for him. So the process begins with hearing, chanting, and remembering. And in that process, the material bondage will naturally be taken care of. Where a devotee does not need to extraneously worry about it. So, having prayed so far about all of these things, so it is very interesting to see what is she going to ask for. If she has established all of these points already, and that Krishna, you come here solely for the purpose of awakening devotional service in the hearts of the conditioned souls, what is she asking for? What is her prayer? So that's what verse 41, 42, and 43 we are going to see. And here, this verse apparently looks like she is asking for detachment. That is what the words indicate and translates. So the word Vishvesha, therefore, Vishvesha, the Lord of the universe, Vishva Atman, the soul of the universe, because Krishna resides in every atom and the heart of every living being as Paramatma to maintain the universe, and also Vishwamurte, and the personification of the universe, because from uh, the Supreme Lord's energy, the world is created. He is the ultimate cause. He's not just the material cause. He is not just but he is also the ultimate cause of everything. So in that sense, he is the personification of the universe itself. So why she is giving these reasons that he is the Lord of the universe, soul of the universe, or the personification or personality of the form of the universe, is that he has the power to actually fulfill this. He cannot say, oh, I cannot do this. How can I do this? So that is why she is already giving all these qualities of Krishna. You are actually powerful. If you wish, you could do this. That is why she is giving all these adjectives, so that it is nothing is impossible for the Supreme Lord Krishna. And then what is she asking? Sneha Pasham Imam Chindi. Sever my tie of affection for my kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. So then naturally the question is, it again is, it looks like, again, it's a very confusing kind of a prayer. Like, why would, after all of these prayers, want to sever the affection with the devotees? So Krishna Chakra Thakur writes, Krishna is asking, okay, you prayed so far like that, now it looks like you're asking for Brahman realization, that you don't want to deal with anybody, you don't want any relationships with my devotees or with me, rather you just want to attain Brahman. And if you cut the knot of attachment to Vrishnis in your heart, I'm also a Vrishni, and Pandavas are my devotees. You just want to cut off all our relationships with us. It just exactly opposite to the prayers that you made so far. And of course, when he says no, actually, what in the next verse, when we read it, becomes much more clear. What she wants is complete attachment to Krishna. So, in the course of that, she is representing Pandu and Vrishni not as devotees in this case. She is also their mother, she is also their aunt, and she is also their sister, she is also their daughter. So, these bonds that has come because of her bodily presence. I cannot say bodily identification, she is a pure devotee, but still, she is taking a very humble position and using Pandushu and Vrishnishu as terms to represent all her material attachments. That's what she is actually using these words to represent. And the first verse in 41, she says, please remove all the material attachments in my heart. And that is only a indirect prayer of what she wants. And the next, if you see the 42nd prayer, which is a very famous prayer also, that she asks, I want complete unobstructed attachment to you. So in the 41st verse, she is saying, remove my material attachments. And in 42nd, she says, may my attraction be only on you. So she is not asking for cutting off all relationships. And then in the 43rd, she also glorifies Krishna through his connections with his devotees. So it is very clear she is not she is not praying to cut off the attachments to devotees or to the Supreme Lord. Here, specifically, the word Pandushu and Vishnushu is representing her material bondage or attachments. That's what she is referring to. And we did see Srila Prabhupada speaks about elaborately uh, the aspect of a family. But The other acharyas also take it as generally material attachments. So what is the biggest problem in understanding Krishna and falling in love with Krishna? So she was given the process how to fall in love with Krishna and what are the steps. However, what is the biggest trouble we have is the material attachments that is persisting in our hearts. And that is exactly she is nailing here in this particular chapter, in this verse, that unless we actually actively let go of our material attachments, it would be very difficult to develop complete attachment to Krishna. Because our material attachments persist not so much because of material life as from the lack of spiritual experience. We have had some spiritual experience, so we continue to practice, but we also become used to all of these things. So it becomes very difficult for us to persist in actually letting go of our material attachments. Most of the times we redevelop those material attachments, but because we are not having a deeper spiritual experience. So then it becomes a routine. What to speak of normal people who go to temple and other things. We are speaking about even devotees who have committed to a particular practice, initiated, committed to a particular vow. It can become monotonous because there is a side of people who go to temple and just pray for material benefits, and they only come to God when they need to resolve, either to pray for their well-being in general or to just resolve an equally pressing issue or problem. That's one kind of people. But even for devotees, who are practicing, who understand the philosophy, who are committed to the process, still it could be very hard for them because we tend to fall into the monotonity of a monotonous kind of phase of life, and we lack spiritual experience, continuous spiritual nourishment and inspiration. Because of that, even though we have awareness of Krishna's love and the visible manifestation of his mercy in our lives, we cannot actually take it deeper and deeper into our hearts and become more and more dependent on Krishna, become more and more attached to Krishna. And because we don't work on that attachment to Krishna, work on deepening our attachment to Krishna, we also end up reigniting our material attachments sometimes, or those things, they just remain and they come back to trouble. So, in order to actually focus inwardly in the heart and work on our connection with Krishna, it can become a huge obstacle because we are involved in the world, and there will be a lot of subtle and gross bond that we develop with the world in the course of our living in this world. It is quite natural. So just because we become devotees does not mean that our self identification, our bodily identifications have completely gone away. They do remain in some corner to some extent. And if we just whitewash it, because now I'm a devotee, everything I possess, everything I have, all the connections I have, everything is spiritual. It can be very easily spiritual. At the same time, we also need to take a honest account of our hearts and see what are those things that is not fully yet spiritualized in our hearts. So otherwise, then all those connections can actually cling very tightly to our self-image, and then it can produce negative emotions, which prevents us from having spiritual experiences. In the Bhagavatam also, it is quoted, and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu also, Rupa Goswami very clearly quotes that Shokamarshadivir Bhavair Akrantamesya Manasam Katam Tatra Mukundasya Spurtihi Sambhavana Bhavet. Like, how can in someone's heart the Lord, Supreme Lord Mukunda's form could be manifested, even like shortly, even like for a brief, for even briefly? Because if the heart and or the mind is absorbed in anger, is extreme grief, or any other negative emotions, because grief, we cannot say always it is a negative emotion, because in the course of the world we might lose someone who is dear to us. We are not speaking about emergencies or exceptions. In general, the lamentation that wish I had something, wish my life was different, wish Krishna had fulfilled this thing in this way, wish I had achieved this thing, or wish my life turned out in this way instead of this way. So we could have some amount of grief or anger or any other negative emotions, lust, pride, and all of these things. When the heart is overwhelmed, it is present, but if the heart becomes overwhelmed by those emotions, then it becomes impossible for the Lord to, for the Lord to appear in our hearts, or it is hard for us to experience the presence of the Lord. He's always there, but for us to actually experience his presence in our hearts and also see his form, because the chanting has to also result in that level, that where we start seeing glimpses at least. So it is not possible when the heart is overwhelmed with the negative emotions. So negative material emotions can distort our consciousness, and more than anything, they tightly bond us with our bodily consciousness. Excuse me, just a minute. So the negative material emotions distort our consciousness and can actually very tightly or very much strongly bind us to our body. That is why it is very important actually to take stock of what is in the heart if the emotions are strongly affecting us, because then our chanting and all the devotional practices, absorption is very difficult to achieve when the mind is absorbed in some kind of a strong, overwhelmed with any kind of strong emotion. However, because we deal with the world regularly, it is very possible on a regular basis our mind gets absorbed, overwhelmed, and absorbed in some kind of an emotion which is unhealthy for our connection with Krishna. That is why Kunti Maharani is using the words Pandushu and using the word Dridam, Imam Chindi, means please cut off my stronger ties, because we all have bodily consciousness. We are trying to practice. However, the bodily consciousness, we have been nurturing it for a very long time. So it is very difficult to let go of it very quickly. And it is very stronger. And that's why she is saying we cannot take, just because we have become devotees, we cannot just take for granted, now I don't have material attachment, or now I don't need to work on my material attachments. So we have to take stock of it and make sure it's not overwhelming us, because the more we remain overwhelmed by the emotions of the lower emotions, it is very difficult to have absorption in Krishna. And without progressive absorption in Krishna, it is difficult to develop love for him. So spiritual emotions are incompatible with the severe material absorption. So that is why she is specifically emphasizing this point in this verse, that please let my heart be severed of this material emotions, so that I can actually develop spiritual emotions for Krishna. With that part, she will come in the 42nd verse, because Lord Brahma also expresses his predicament in the Bhagavatam. He says, Tavad bayam dravina deha suhrin namittam shokas praha paribhavo vipluchastaloba tavan mameti asadavagraha arti moolam yavan nate angrim abhayam pravurnita loka. So Brahmaji is praying generally for all people, for all of people in the material creation. He says, the people of the world are constantly embarrassed by material anxieties. Either people have to protect their wealth, defend their body, or defend their family and friends, or they have to, yeah, defend for protecting in many ways, either their body or their wealth or the health in so many ways. So because of this, the conditioned soul can become filled with a lot of lamentation, what to speak of unlawful desires, because in the course of trying to defend in this world, we could become angry, then we could do things which are not nice to other people in the course of defending us and what whom we are considering as our friends. And in this way, we could become one, the conditioned soul becomes absorbed in lamentation and unlawful desires, and becomes very strongly attached to the conceptions of me and mine. So as long as the strong conception of me and mine is there, It is yavan nate angrim abhayam pravurnita lokaha. It would be very difficult for the conditioned souls to take shelter of the Supreme Lord. Abhayam. Abhayam means to take shelter. Here the word is not used in the sense of fearless, rather in the sense of taking shelter of the Supreme Lord. Angrim. And the feet that can offer fearlessness. So taking shelter of those feet, so in a lotus feet of Krishna is very difficult when we are overwhelmed with lower emotions. So when one is overwhelmed, we are the ones who need to stop, take a stock of it, and see where is it coming from and how can I actually let it go. And here Kunti Maharani is also teaching that just because we have material attachments, it does not mean we need to take shelter of some other process to let go of it. Again, actually use that again as an opportunity to turn to Krishna and express it to Krishna honestly, that this is what is my heart is being troubled by. Instead of going before the deities, and then I have done it and I continue to do it. And I'm saying from a personal example, like acting as if everything is fine. Oh, the dressing is amazing, the worship is great, the Krishna is smiling and looking beautiful, Radharani is looking cute, she looks young when this devotee dresses. The deities are not there for us to see, as last week we discussed. The deities are also there for actually seeing us. And the word that Ani is like means if you don't see us, what will happen to? And going before the deities and honestly expressing. I means for a very long time, I continue to do that also. Like just praying very generically as if everything is fine. And as I have you means have you ever gone to a manager and then like the things are not working or you're not fully invested yet, but like you just have to act as if everything is fine with the manager or with someone whom you're reporting to. We are not having that kind of a relationship with Krishna because he clearly knows what is going on in our hearts. But Krishna will not interfere in our lives if we don't want him to interfere. Krishna will let us actually deal with it if we think we don't want Krishna to interfere in our lives. So we want Krishna to interfere when we have troubles in life, when we have problems in life, when things are out of our control. But we don't externally, when difficulties come from when the material world challenges us, then naturally, if there is a health issue or if there is any other issue in the world that is endangering our existence or challenging our existence, then we naturally turn to Krishna. However, we don't take stock of the internal enemies that actually are equally, if not more, serious in endangering our bhakti and existence. For that, we don't actually turn to Krishna with the same amount of eagerness or same amount of helplessness and ask Krishna to intervene. So, Krishna will not intervene until we want him to intervene. So, the idea of Kunti Maharani here directly telling Krishna, this is my problem. Please actually help me develop. Sorry, please cut off this particular attachment. He's very direct. She's very directly actually praying. And in that way, a practicing devotee needs to actually offer prayers for Krishna's intervention, not just in external circumstances, but also in the internal circumstances that are there that are stopping us from developing stronger attachment to Krishna. So that is why she is using this word, that as long as one is embarrassed by the material attachments, of which the affection for family and friends are the strongest, because the bodily consciousness manifests strongly with our own body, and then those who are connected with our bodies. From there, it starts to take various shapes and forms. So in principle, she is speaking about bodily attachments, and it could be different for different people. But in principle, what she is referring to is the bodily attachments, which is very strong. And she uses the word sneha pasham, means sneha pasham is that she has a deeper, overwhelming emotion coming there. So again, the principle is If we, whatever overwhelming emotion we have in our heart, which is not conducive for bhakti, then we need to take stock of it and express it to Krishna and ask him to intervene so that we can actually let go of that. And eventually we will see in the next prayer what is she praying further. And these are some of the thoughts I could gather from what the book and the commentaries and the words that she is using. And of course, we did read through the purport. So if there is anything on this particular verse, I see Sundaranand Prabhu's hand raised. Then we can go to the next verse. Hare Krishna, Sundaranand Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I hope you're able to hear me. Prabhu, this point about Queen Kunti is obviously asking for detachment from family relations. For us, let's say we want something that is still within the realm and needed for devotional, for service. How often do we ask? Can you just tell us a little bit about how we ask Krishna? That point you mentioned that we should reach out. Is it once a day? Is it every time we feel the necessity? Or can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Means regularly, the word Vishnu Chakra Thakur explains the word Nitya. In his commentary, he says Nitya is always. But for a practicing devotee, how would he be able to do always? Then why would he be called a practicing devotee? If he is able to do always, then he won't be a practicing devotee. So he says regularly. And that is up to the seriousness of that individual to actually decide how regularly, how desperately. So the quality of Prabhupada says the one who cries the loudest, that bird gets the attention. So it is your relationship with Krishna. You have to also see what is your interest and ability in turning to him, and how often it is something that you can actually decide and try. And the more regulated it is, much easier for to begin with, and naturally it will become a constant feeling. So it can be stipulated as part of the routine. However, the idea of the routine is to develop a heart which is constantly thinking like that and feeling like that. So we start somewhere, and then from there it naturally grows and we become that person.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. So with these words that Kunti Maharani is speaking about, that how she just wants to cut off these material attachments so that she can actually, for what she wants then. So that's when that Krishna is asking, okay, do you then just want Brahman realization or something, that you don't want all these connections? Are you against personal connections? Especially the names that you're asking is directly referring to me and my devotees Pandavas. So how come? So that's when Kunti Maharani is saying, no, what I'm asking is Tvai me ananya vishaya mathir madhupate sakrit ratimudvahata dadha gangai voham mudanvati. O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. Purport. Perfection of pure devotion service is attained when all attention is diverted towards the transcendental loving service of the Lord. To cut off the tie of all other affections does not mean complete negation of the finer elements like affection for someone else. This is not possible. A living being, whoever he may be, must have this feeling of affection for others because this is a symptom of life. The symptoms of life, such as desire, anger, hankerings, feelings of attraction, etc., cannot be annihilated. Only the objective has to be changed. Desire cannot be negated, but in devotional service, the desire is changed only for the service of the Lord in place of desire for sense gratification. This affection for family, society, country, etc., consists of different phases of sense gratification. When this desire is changed for the satisfaction of the Lord, it is called devotional service. In the Bhagavad Gita, we can see that Arjuna desired not to fight with his brothers and relations just to satisfy his own personal desires. But when he heard the message of the Lord, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, he changed his decision and served the Lord. And for his doing, he became a famous devotee of the Lord. For it is declared in all the scriptures that Arjuna attained spiritual perfection by devotional service to the Lord in friendship. The fighting was there, the friendship was there, Arjuna was there, and Krishna was there. But Arjuna became a different person by devotional service. Therefore, the prayers of Kunti also indicate the same categorical changes in activities. Srimati Kunti wanted to serve the Lord without diversion, and that was her prayer. This unalloyed devotion is the ultimate goal of life. Our attention is usually diverted to the service of something which is non godly or not in the program of the Lord. When the program is changed into the service of the Lord, that is to say, when the senses are purified in relation with the service of the Lord, it is called pure unalloyed devotional service. Srimati Kunti Devi wanted that perfection and prayed for it from the Lord. Affection for the Pandavas and the Vrishnis is not out of the range of devotional service because the service of the Lord and the service of the devotees are identical. Sometimes service to the devotee is more valuable than the service to the Lord. But here, affection of Kunti Devi for the Pandavas and the Vrishnis was due to family relation. This type of affection in terms of material relation is the relation of Maya because the relations of the body or the mind are due to the influence of external energy. Relations of the soul established in relation with the Supreme Soul are factual relations. When Kunti Devi wanted to cut off the family relation, she meant to cut off the relation of the skin. The skin relation is the cause of material bondage, but the relation of the soul is the cause of freedom. This relation of the soul to the soul can be established by the medium of the relation with the super soul. Seeing in the darkness is not seeing, but seeing by the light of the sun means to see the sun and everything else which was unseen in the darkness. That is the way of devotional service. So here she is continuing to the words of Krishna that what do you really want? Do you want impersonal liberation? So that's why she is saying, no, I want stronger connection with you. I don't want my heart to be distracted by anything else. She wants exclusive attachment to the Supreme Lord. And that's why she is asking to sever all the material bonds. She is not asking to sever any loving attachment to Krishna or his devotees. And she gives this powerful example of the Ganga flowing continuously towards the ocean, the final abode of all the small and large rivers. So, similarly, may my mind attain you, the abode of all devotees. So, devotees are included in that. So it's not separate from thing. Then naturally is if my family is not devotee, is that a thing. What Prabhupada is actually saying is very powerful here. What he says is like seeing in the darkness is not seeing, but seeing in the by the light of the sun means to see the sun and everything else which was unseen in the darkness. So without developing attachment to Krishna, any other attachment we actually develop in this world, however noble it is, will be seen as seeing in the darkness. That's what he is referring to. So, as long as we focus on our developing a relation with the Supreme Lord, and when we are continuously working on it, to that extent, everything else will fall in place. But because now there is light, there is connection with Krishna. So, the focus is that we develop an endeavor and increase our attachment and absorption in Krishna and relationship with Krishna, then naturally everything becomes factual relations. Prabhupada is saying relations of the soul established in relationship with the Supreme Soul or factual relations. So they don't, we all continue to do our duties. The first thing is that we develop our connection with Krishna and make it more strong and strong. And that's all is the focus. Then everything else falls in place. And that is why she is speaking about this, because Jiva Goswami mentions in one of the sandarbhas that how the disease of the conditioned living entity in the material world is aversion to God. That is the crux of everything, because the sandarbha is also called as Preeti Sandarbha, means developing love is discussed. So he says the main obstacle in developing love for Krishna is that the conditioned soul is averse to Krishna. Because there is aversion, there cannot be actually attachment, in the sense of I'm speaking about spiritual attachment. So, because we have constantly looked away from Krishna and become very attracted to material energy, it becomes very difficult to actually give up those attachments in the heart internally. Yeah. Not just externally, but internally, to give up those attachments and to actually develop affection for Krishna. And through that attachment to Krishna and affection to Krishna, everything else falls in place, everything gets adjusted. However, because we are by nature in this world so averse to Krishna, we need to make a clear endeavor to continue to develop that attachment. And Srila Prabhupada also used the word like objective or goal to stress that we need to make 108-degree change, because one is attachment to body and the other is attachment to Krishna, and through that we develop more attachment, develop the other attachments fall in place accordingly. So it's 108-degree change. So to make Krishna the new object of all efforts will need a lot of change. That's why he speaks about Arjuna. That in the Bhagavad Gita, we can see that Arjuna desired not to fight initially. However, when he heard the message of the Krishna Bhagavad Gita and developed, rekindled that understanding of devotional service to the Lord and friendship, then the fighting was there, the friendship was there, uh, Arjuna was there, and Krishna was there. But still, Arjuna was a completely different person. So externally, things may not change in our lives. What here Prabhupada is emphasizing is that can we change internally as a different person? So, what is that problem which we are unable to change internally? Is our desires. So that's why Prabhupada first speaks about the desires. So desire cannot be negated. We will have feeling of affection for others. He says this is symptom of life. A living being, whoever he may be, I'm just re-quoting Prabhupada's words. A living being, whoever he may be, must have this feeling of affection for others, because this is a symptom of life. The symptoms of life, such as desire, anger, hankerings, feelings of attraction, cannot be annihilated. Only the objective has to be changed. So Prabhupada is very clear. Desire cannot be negated. It's just that it has to be transformed. So when this desire is changed for the satisfaction of the Lord, he says it is called devotional service. It's a nice purport. We could read more because there is more details in there. So that is why he's saying Arjuna did not change as a person. The external things did not change. And Prabhupada again says, therefore, the prayers of Kunti also indicate the same categorical change in activities. She is not just asking for external change, she is asking for categorical change in activities. She wanted to serve the Lord without diversion. She wanted unalloyed devotion, which is the ultimate goal of life. Our attention is usually diverted. So, can we bring our attention more strongly towards Krishna and his service? That is the prayer. So he says, when the program is changed into the service of the Lord, that is to say, when the senses are purified. So, how do we have purified senses? Then we need to actually practice bhakti, because that is the process to actually easily purify our senses. When the senses are more and more purified, then everything we start seeing the connection with Krishna, because our connection with Krishna is constant. So, everything we do becomes connected to Krishna. It sounds like, how does that work? That is why Prabhupada is saying, unless your senses are purified and we have an awakening and a stronger connection with Krishna, it is very difficult to see how everything will become spiritually connected. And we all know this great example of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that he was one of the kind of a saint, because he was not like his predecessors who were Babajis, who gave up everything and who sat in not complete seclusion, but pretty much cut off from the society or minimal connections with the society. He was not like that. He was an acharya who changed that a lot. because the immediate 100, 200 years of Gaudiya history was very different when he appeared in the scenario. We do have or Srinivasacharya and all of them who were active within the society and preached vigorously and took the Sankirtan movement ahead in the after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are many others like Rasikananda Prabhu and everyone. However, during the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the other side was also has become overly emphasized. So he appeared at a time when usually the Gaudiya saints were removed from the society, and also because of that they have become too much of, not everybody, many of them had become devout. Many sects of Gaudiya had become Sahajiyas, or Sahajiyas were known as Gaudiyas. So he, in order to actually set an example, he continued to work, he continued to do everything. It showed that how spiritual life could be integrated into our daily life, or daily life could be integrated into spiritual life. It is not very easy, and that is why it is very important to actually regularly have this aspiration. It is up to the individual to regularly bring their attention to this aspect. What are my material attachments? How are they overwhelming me and keeping me away from Krishna, and taking away my absorption in my sadhana, so that we can our senses can become purified, and the more the senses are purified, more our relationship with Krishna will become pronounced. And in that light, that's why seeing in the darkness is not seeing in the light is real seeing. That's why Prabhupada is using that analogy. In that life powered by sadhana, we hear, right, sometimes car advertisements and this, powered by this, powered by that. So if our life is powered by our sadhana, then there is sunlight. And in that sunlight, when we see, that means in that life powered by sadhana, our relationships, our endeavors, our work, all our responsibilities, which are unavoidable in this world, they all develop a different quality. So that is why Prabhupada is saying, seeing in the darkness is not seeing. So how are we going to awaken that relationship with Krishna very strongly? To the extent that is there, then naturally everything else will become very clear, how to manage it and how much to manage it. Both becomes very clear. So that is why developing this consciousness as a true ego, developing this true ego as servant of Krishna, then leads to love for Krishna. And from that place, there is nothing external change is not required, as Prabhupada is giving Arjuna's example. Nothing externally changed in his life. So that is why it is very important to understand that we need undivided love. But undivided love for Krishna is preceded by an undivided desire for such love. Without having that desire, that is why bhakti's qualification is greed. There's no qualification for bhakti. It's just greed, that I want this. If the Supreme Lord is merciful, and if I can develop a connection with Krishna, why not? I want this. There is no question of whether we deserve it. Nobody deserves. Mercy is something which no one deserves. The moment we deserve it by anything, there's no more mercy. But our sadhana is not a bargaining chip. I do this much sadhana, so Krishna is bound to reveal himself to me. The sadhana is not a bargaining chip. Sadhana is a humble sign that we have an undivided desire for that undivided love towards Krishna. So if you read the 12.9 in the Bhagavad Gita, where's my Bhagavad Gita? 12.9. Ata chittam samadhatum na shaknoshi mayastiram. Abhyasa yogena tato mam ichhaptum dhananjaya. He says that Krishna says, if you cannot constantly be absorbed in your mind and intelligence in me, which is the best, but if you cannot, ata chittam samadhatum na shaknoshi mayastiram. If you cannot, na shaknoshi mayastiram, if you cannot steadily, stiram, cannot just focus on me always, shaknoshi, na shaknoshi, you don't have the ability, then abhyasa yogena, try for that. Continue to endeavor for that. Train yourself. Abhyasa yoga. That is sadhana. Abhyasa yogena tato mam ichaptum dhananjaya. What is the purpose of sadhana? Mam ichaptum dhananjaya. Develop a desire to attain me. Develop a desire to achieve me. So, in order to achieve undivided love, we need, first of all, undivided desire for such love. So, the purpose of sadhana is not like to boost our ego. The purpose of sadhana is just exclusively to develop a desire, an undivided desire, to have that undivided love for Krishna. As here Kunti Maharani is praying, want to have a stronger attraction, undivided attraction. Gangai Voga Mudanmati. Ananya Vishaya means not divided. Anya. There is no other Vishaya. Ananya Vishaya. That Krishna becomes the Ananya Vishaya of our mind. For that, we need to develop that desire. We don't, initially, without the desire, that love will not manifest. So, for that greed, we need to practice sadhana so that we can develop greed to have Krishna. So sadhana is supposed to lead us, is to be performed with greed for Krishna. And when we, even if we don't have that, then the process of sadhana will eventually, sure, when it is done properly, it has to lead to greed for Krishna, an undivided desire and a burning desire to have Krishna and love for him. So that is why here she is using these words. And Ratim Udvahata Daddha Gangai Vohamudanmati. So, how can we make Krishna the undivided object of our love? We don't have it, then at least develop a desire for it. Matir Madhupate Sakrat Ratim Udvahatat. So, if I feel like, no, I don't even think that I need Krishna so much, I'm not even desperate to have Krishna so much, so then that can again become a prayer, as she is saying, what is stopping us from having this undivided desire, this overwhelming desire for overwhelming love for Krishna? I don't even desire for it. So then what is the desire? There must be some desire. Desire cannot be negated, as Prabhupada is writing in this purport. So then what is the desire which is sitting in the heart? Usually it is the material desire. So that is why this prayer is very much clear that spiritual desire I want. Why I don't have? Because I have material desire. So Krishna, please remove my material desire. Please help me give up my material desires and practice sadhana to achieve that. And through the practice of sadhana, senses get purified. Our desire to actually wanting undivided love for Krishna becomes stronger. And eventually, the more the desire is sincere, Krishna will grant further what is required for us to achieve that Ratim Udvahata Datta. And these are some of the things. So usually the devotees begin the practice of bhakti, and naturally the material attachments will naturally be healed and will be purified. And because material attachments makes us suffer, whereas when those very relationships are established from the perspective of love for Krishna, then it does not bring suffering. It is service. It brings satisfaction, it brings fulfillment, it brings happiness. Attachment actually will create frustration, will make us very blind, and will deepen our ignorance. And it will enslave us in material bondage. But spiritual love actually sets us free. So the same relationships, when it is reoriented from the perspective, from the lens of love for Krishna, and when it is rooted from that place, then those very relationships actually can be very nourishing to our heart, can make us actually happy and can bring us closer to Krishna. Because without connection with devotees, we cannot make our connection with Krishna. So there is a difference between spiritual and material relationships. What she is asking is transform our material relationships to spiritual relationships, and that begins with developing a stronger connection with Krishna. Without that, it is not possible. And without connection with people, or specifically devotees, it's not possible to have connection with Krishna. That is why in her next verse, she clarifies Krishna and glorifies Krishna through the his connections with the devotees. Shri Krishna Shaka Vrishni Rishabhavani Rajanya Vamshadhanana Pavarga Virya Govinda Godvija Surarti Haravatara Yogeshwara Kila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. O Krishna, O friend of Arjuna, O chief amongst the descendants of Vrishni, you are the destroyer of those political parties which are disturbing elements on this earth. Your prowess never deteriorates. You are the proprietor of the transcendental abode, and you descend to relieve the distresses of the cows, the brahmanas, and the devotees. You possess all mystic powers, and you are the preceptor of the entire universe. You are the Almighty God, and I offer you my respectful obeisances. So, as explained, that she's asking for undivided love for Krishna and simultaneously asking for true love for the Pandavas and the Yadavas. So one who loves Krishna cannot but love his devotees. In fact, the love for devotees can become a stronger reason to love Krishna more. So our reason to love a devotee is because they love Krishna. Many a times in the practicing devotees, the problem is we try to develop, we love someone, we love a devotee because of their inclination towards us, how they are, what do you call it, disposition towards us. This devotee is favorably disposed. This devotee has a favorable disposition towards me. So I like this devotee. I love this devotee. And this devotee does not have a favorable disposition towards me. So I hate this devotee. So it's a practical problem. The more the strong feeling is there, it is very difficult for the heart to be soft and invite Krishna strong into it. So our reason to love a devotee is because they love Krishna. They are devotees. And that's why Krishna says, Api chetsu duracharo vajate mam ananya bhak sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hita. He says, Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigachati konte pratijanehi name bhakta pranashyati. He says, even if he has done something abominable, he's supposed to be considered as a sadhu. You must consider him as a sadhu because his qualification is he is ananya. Api setu duracharyo bhajate mam ananya bhak. Because he won't take shelter of a demigod. He might become a materialistic person enjoying sense gratification, but he will not take shelter of another demigod, ask for anything from anybody else. He may become an atheist in a sense, an emotional atheist, not necessarily a philosophically atheist. He may act as if God does not exist because of his material attachments. He may become overwhelmed with the desire to enjoy this world. However, he has awakened his relationship with me, and he does not take shelter of anyone else the same way. So that's why he is called as Ananya Bhak. Because he is Ananya, as long as he is Ananya, we don't need to worry about. He says, you don't worry. It's your duty to consider him. Sadhu eva. You can only consider him as a sadhu. Shipram bhavati dharmatma, because he will very quickly become righteous and become situated. That is my problem. It is my project. I am actively involved. Na kaunteya pratijanehi name bhakta pranashyati. So I actively is working on his case. You don't need to worry about it. No, the file is not closed. As long as the individual is committed to Krishna in Ananya, and it may not even externally manifest as sadhana. A devotee could externally even give up sadhana and still be considered Ananya. Because ultimately, bhakti is also about feeling. Sometimes we say bhakti is not about feeling. Bhakti is also about feeling. Krishna has a heart, and he has seen the feelings of this devotee for him. So that is never going to be completely retracted. So one disciple of Prabhupada had left visibly practicing bhakti externally. And it was reported to Prabhupada. And this devotee was very senior and came to like pretty much one of the first initial people that Prabhupada got introduced in 26 Second Avenue. And he had helped Prabhupada in books and everything, so much service. And Prabhupada, when he heard about it, Prabhupada said, no, this individual chanted very sincerely in Vrindavan and prayed to Krishna and wanted love for Krishna. Since I'm sure they prayed for very sincerely to Krishna in Vrindavan, because they prayed once sincerely, it will not go in vain. So it'll never go in vain. And we did see after Prabhupada's leaving his body, this devotee came back towards the end of his life when he was almost about to pass away. He again came back, he regretted, and he continued to engage in the process of bhakti and regretted that he did not take advantage of Prabhupada's association and continue to practice. However, he did come back. So Prabhupada, so we, the more knowingly, unknowingly, we have in the presence of devotees, in the presence of the deities, in spiritual places, in the dhams, we have prayed so that we are usually distracted by by our loudest desires, but we also have deepest desires. Krishna, she sees the deepest desire. He does not see the, he's not distracted by the loudest desires that we have. We are distracted by the loudest desires of our heart, of the mind, but Krishna sees the deepest desire. Because he sees that, he considers us and he will never give up on us. So even if when we see, oh, this devotee is not favorable to me, it's, we can keep our distance, or it's our duty to keep our heart soft. It's nobody else's duty, it's nobody else's responsibility. Deal however you have to, but our hearts cannot be closed. The more the heart is closed, the more it is difficult to actually invest in Krishna. So for our own good, we would have to forgive and forget and move on. It can be applied in different circumstances differently. The different roles one plays, it can be applied differently. That's a complete different subject. But the idea is, it is my duty to keep my heart soft, however hard it is, because a practicing devotee can, for all, what you call, can be justified in hating people, in really being strong, having strong opinions and emotions towards others, what to speak of other devotees in the practicing stage. However, the more we let it go unchecked, it can close our hearts and act as an impediment for our connection with Krishna. So for our own good, we have to make sure our heart is soft and we forgive, and internally, externally, depending on the circumstances, and move on. Because the sweet, loving bonds we have with the devotees can act as inspiration for us to develop sweet bond with Krishna. And at the same time, our bonds with Krishna, our relationship with devotees, cannot be again made from a material perspective. Even I've seen, when even like somebody serves Guru very sincerely, and then when the Guru does not give them any attention, they become very angry. So that means like even that relationship with the Guru can be, we can continue to make it from our materialistic. So we need to pray and make sure all the connections that we make with the devotees and our gurus and our teachers and others, with the organization, with our services, is coming from a deeper place, not from the loudest place. So the more it comes from the deepest place, we'll be guaranteed. Krishna guarantees. If in our deepest desires, Krishna is sitting, of course, is for sure there for practicing devotees. However, let us not be distracted too much by our loudest desires and delay the deepest desire, which is very much, which happens a lot of time. So Sadhu Sangha can act like a inspiration for developing love for Krishna. That is the purpose of this verse. She glorifies Krishna not directly by his own names, but she also takes Krishna Saka, because Arjuna also had a name as Krishna, and she also says Vrishni Rishabhava Nitru. So in this way, Govinda, his connection with the Vrajavasis, she is connecting with all of these things, because the spiritual world belongs to those who develop connections with Krishna and his devotees. So Prabhupada uses the word Govinda, he translated it as proprietor of the transcendental abode. So his property becomes our property because it is inherited when we are connected to him, when we are connected to his devotees. So our connection with Krishna comes through our connection with devotees, because we are connected to devotees, and subsequently to Krishna's abode also becomes our personal abode. Basically, we can go to the spiritual world through our connection with the devotees, and because of that we develop stronger connection with Krishna. Then spiritual world just becomes a natural destination to go. It's not a externally, it's not a different goal to approach. So that is why attachment to devotees is very crucial. From the prayer started with how can I actually understand Krishna, and how is it ending? by developing attachment to devotees. Sadhu Sangha is the indirect answer she is giving in order for developing bhakti. There's nothing else. She is not saying bhakti comes from bhakti. So she is not contradicting the philosophical conclusions of the Bhagavatam and the Acharyas. Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya. So she comes back to this perspective at the last. She says, okay, if you want to become a devotee, you have to be connected to the devotees. And through that, you will develop connections with Krishna, and the spiritual world becomes your rightful property. So that is the whole idea that she is weaving through these elaborate prayers. And also she's saying, Krishna, please don't go. We are all your devotees. So I have connections with them. So you are Arjuna's friend, you are Vishnu's, you are the chief among the Vishnus. Stay with us. Means not just externally, but internally, she is wanting that constant thing. It's not just when Krishna is there, she wants to meditate on him or hold him hostage or anything like that. She wants to hold Krishna hostage in the heart. That she wants to Krishna continuously stay in her heart, not just externally, but also in her own heart. And so let's see in the next coming week, what is Krishna like answering for these elaborate prayers? What does he do? How does he react? That we will see in the next week. And there is all the chance that we may not have a session next week or may not have the session at the same time. And I might have to adjust the time. I'll be somewhere else. And because of my lack of coordination, something else got slotted for this time. So I don't know how to adjust it. So I'll work through it and I'll update in the WhatsApp group. So I'll try not to cancel, instead just to change the time if possible. It could be even as late as, like, it could be on Saturday or it could be on a Sunday evening, something like that. If we don't want to cancel, if you're okay to cancel, then we will continue the following week. But I would have to, for next week, adjust the timings. I'm also realizing I don't need to cancel every time. Instead, I could do on a Saturday afternoon or like a Sunday afternoon, depending on with the poll. If majority devotees are able to, then we don't need to cancel and continue. So thank you. And I do see a question from Sundar Ananda Prabhu, Sundar Gopal Prabhu, and Mother Gail is raising her hands too. Connecting to Krishna mainly through his devotees gets a little tricky because there are so many different devotees with different levels, and we also interact, like you said, based on our own egoistic ways. So this requirement is little discouraged. Like, again, as Kunti Maharani is saying, we have come to bhakti because of our connection with the devotees, but because our ego is not fully purified, we tend to have problem. They become whoever became, like, what the aspect of devotees became our connection to Krishna becomes the biggest headache once we take bhakti. So the thing is, we just have to purify our egos. We cannot give up those association because Krishna does not exist alone without his connection with his devotees. So we cannot practice bhakti in isolation. And also, like, how are we even connecting with our guru? How are we connecting with those who we even look up to? Like, how much we really go from that deeper perspective, how much attachment I have developed internally for my guru, how much I live with my guru constantly internally. How do I actually create an awareness of my guru's presence in my heart and in life? To the stronger it is, and what is his mood. So then naturally, when we may center our lives like that, they are constantly telling us, purify your ego, become become humble, and have better relationship with other devotees. Yeah, serving guru is also very internal. It's not just external. It's not about the projects we do for the guru. It's also, what is the mood, what is the actual relationship. Physically, is there is some mission going on, there is a presence is there, but internally, what is our connection with guru? How much do we remember them? How much are we connected with them internally? How much are we committed to them in our hearts through our practices and attitude? What are we changing? What have we committed to them to change? Are we continuing to work on that? So those are the things can actually help. I feel like that connection can be the most stronger foundation on which, on that platform, then we try to see other connections those ones who are favorable to us and those ones who are not so favorable to us, see all of them through this lens of our connection with Guru. And the deeper it is, then naturally we will start loving. I do observe my own spiritual master and I see how much he respects his spiritual god brothers. I'm like, my God, what is like, how is it possible to actually respect and treat god brothers with such respect? I've even seen Jed with Marj. He has a very simple diet. Like he eats khichdi all the time. Like he's just he likes to eat very chatpata, like puri chaat items, like those kind of items. Whenever he comes to India, that's what devotees. In his younger days also, he liked it, he loved it. He would just have lunch as pani puri or the chaat or something like that. Imagine having it for lunch. But as he has aged, he has stopped eating anything else other than just khichdi, and very rarely he might have a spoon of something else. And if he visits India, if devotees offer, he may eat, but he has become more and more, no, it's okay, my body cannot handle it, and he just eats khichdi throughout 24 by sorry 7 days a week. And so sometimes I see I would make for him and I was serving. If his god brothers walked in, oh my God, he would just completely change it. The room would be very like, oh, I'm sorry, if I move my laptop it gets. He was usually very sober, like very grave, and you're not speaking much. But the moment like his god brothers would come, he'd just come to life. He'd just become a completely different person. You just immediately say, hey, give them, like he would make sure they have a seat. He would ask them, what would you like to eat? And I remember one of the senior devotee, he came, Prabhupada disciple and god brother of Jayadvaita Maharaj. So he came and then he saw what Maharaj is eating. And Maharaj said, please have some khichdi. And he couldn't say no to Maharaj. And as I was giving him the plate, he said, no, don't put much. I don't like thin khichdi. So he said, just give me a little. I want to just respect Maharaj. So don't bring me a big plate of khichdi. I cannot eat this thing. I eat differently. And then I just brought a small portion. And he wanted to respect Maharaj, and Maharaj wanted to respect him. And how I was just seeing how these devotees have such a nice relation, nice affection and appreciation for their god brothers, even sometimes when they disagree. I was in the middle of a storm with a proper disciple, and then Jayadvaita Maharaj got into the picture, and he didn't fully agree with what that devotee, but the respect that he shows and the love that he offers, despite not agreeing fully, was very striking to see. So that I don't have a personal experience of it. I still struggle with it. Probably my life's biggest problems currently that I face is all my inability to deal with my relationships with other devotees and god brothers. That probably throws me off the most because my ego is very strong. I'm living life from my ego. So I hold on to the past. I hold them hostage. I drag them down in my mind because I am still living from my egoistic perspective of my life. So the more if I can situate myself, my guru in my heart and act from that place, then my relationships with the devotees could change. And surely those very relationships are the only reasons in my life currently, with all the struggles that I have. The hope is the friends that I have, because I have been a person who was pretty independent. That's how I grew up, and that's how I conducted myself, especially in the association of devotees. You could ask my friends in JV. I was not a very easy person to make friends with. Like I would be nice to people, but nobody can come close to me. I had a strong walls built around me. Nobody knew what I'm up to, what I wanted to do. It's all my decisions in life, where I want to go, what I want to do. So I was very independent. I was very closed off. I didn't allow anyone into my life and share my difficulties. So a time came when I could just not handle anything. It was a complete showdown. So then I was forced to develop relationships, and that is the instruction given to me by my spiritual master. When I wanted to when he asked me to stay at the Bhakti Center, he said, who are your friends? That's the first question he asked me. I wanted to go back to India and he wanted me to stay here. And when he convinced me, the first thing he asked was, who are your friends? Stay in touch with them. So I did not do it for many years. And then I realized, why am I having troubles? Because I did not follow the instruction properly. So currently my lifeline is the friendships that I have. And even now I'm not like fully perfectly taking it, but still the only reason I survive in my spiritual life is because I have some friends and well wishers who pray for me, who give their well wishes to me. And I'm very convinced that because of their prayers I'm being tolerated by Radha Muralidharji. So eventually, because of our ego, we shoot in our own leg. We create holes in that safety net of stronger association. We can be generally disposed towards everyone like neutrally, in the sense of being nice to people, but we need to have some few good friends, which is more deeper, which can actually inspire us in bhakti, which can strongly inspire us to become better people, better devotees. And yeah, all kinds of help we need. We all need mentors, therapists, we need counselors, we need friends, we need casual friends, we need deep friendships, we need uncles, aunts, grandfathers, grandmothers in bhakti. So we need all of these relationships. It's illusion to think that we could advance without all of these community of devotees. We just don't need one friend or one mentor. We need grandfathers, grandmothers, uncles. We need all kinds of different emotional support and encouragement and avenues to express and take help from. So eventually, when we want to grow in bhakti, we realize my personal ability is so limited. I don't have undivided love for Krishna. That is very clear. I don't even have undivided desire to have love for Krishna. So it becomes, the more it becomes apparent, it's okay. I don't have the strength. I need to borrow it from my association. So that is why Sadhu Sangha, it's not the birthplace of bhakti. It is the lifeline of bhakti also. It's the birthplace of bhakti, but it is also the lifeline. Continue to grow. So anyone who just thinks that I have an amazing sadhana in my own space and I can, it's just between me and Krishna, it can be very hard. Krishna does not care. Like, he's not going to open up very quickly. He sees all our faults. So that's why it's safer to go through. That's why we say go through devotees, go through Radharani, because these are merciful manifestations. Look through all the muck and see that one little quality, that the deepest desire we have. But Krishna sees the whole picture. He says, "You have everything, boy. Like, I'm not. You have to sort it out." And we don't even invite him to sort it out. And so when devotees get involved in our lives, that's a sign that Krishna will have no choice but to get involved in our lives. But that involvement and that shelter needs to come from a deeper place, not again from an egoistic place. So I don't know where I went with all of these things. Sometimes these classes are becoming. So thank you, Hare Krishna. Mother Gail, I do see your hand raised. Who's the other hands? I see only one hand. And
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, two things. One is, I'm just wondering if there is a place for those egoistic friendships in Krishna consciousness, at least in the more immature stages of bhakti, because it might be difficult for some of us to appreciate everybody just because of their feelings towards Krishna. I mean, in friendship, you do want that nourishment of people who you feel liked by also. So, is there not a place for that?
So if I paraphrase, you are asking, is there not a place for me to hold my feelings of not liking someone or disapproving their acts? Or am I paraphrasing it?
I'm wondering, because we were saying that we should have friendships, not so much how they, on how much they like me, but how much they like Krishna. But
I understand.
It should be both, no?
Yes. Like sometimes when I make a point and also my English, I can sound very exclusive when I use the word should, and because sometimes it's very hard to highlight all the perspectives in a particular, what do you call that, principle. There are multiple perspectives, and we need to cover all those perspectives in a particular principle. But when you are speaking in the flow, then you just highlight what is connected to the verse. But yeah, of course, Sangha, this concept of Sajatiya Sangha is there.
Yeah.
That if somebody is not favorably inclined to me, like if somebody is not interested in creating friendship with me, it would be impossible.
Yeah, even though they
even though
Krishna
they
so
love
much.
Krishna,
Yeah.
our ways of doing things may be very different. So natural that we will go with people who we can identify with. But the point is here is it cannot become just an ego pandering association.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we cannot otherwise think others are all like, no, like that. So we can have a general favorable attitude to everyone and have a very close relationship with those devotees whom we are calling as Sajatiya Sangha, with whom we can actually relate to and reveal.
Yeah. Vibe with.
Yeah. Vibe with, yes. Perfect.
Okay, Prabhu, just one other thing was when it comes to Queen Kunti wanting these attachments to be severed, right?
Yes.
So, of course, we don't want material attachments, but did she not see her sons as devotees? So, if so, then why would
she is seeing in the last verse, if you see, she is calling Krishna as Krishna Saka or Krishna Rishabhavanidruk. So she is seeing that perspective as devotees, but she is also saying she becomes overwhelmed because of the bodily connection sometimes. So she wants to give herself completely to Krishna. She does not want to be so concerned about the bodily connection. However, she also understands it's not that she just wants the affection, like materialistic affection coming from bodily conception, to be taken away. She is not wanting that. I don't want to be with them. So she could just go to forest, right? She's not asking that. She's just asking the materialistic, the affection coming from a egoistic place. That's what I want to transform it completely towards you. And from that place, by having undivided love for you, naturally I'll also the connection with others will come from that place. As Prabhupada was saying, if we see in the dark, we could see something in the darkness also. We could get adjusted, our eyes could get adjusted to some darkness, and we could start seeing something, but that's not real seeing. So in our own lives, through our ego, through our materialistic conceptions, we can develop some relationships, but it's not complete. Those attachments can lead us to different things, not necessarily just attachment to Krishna. So what she wants is, she wants to first fix this connection with Krishna strong, make it more strong, and from that place she's open to having other connections with anybody and everyone. However, that connection with Krishna is also through connection with devotees. She is okay to have that. So she is saying here, like, she's okay to have the connection with, rather praying for proper connection with devotees, so that her connection with Krishna, her love for Krishna can become stronger. In that way, she can cure all the materialistic affection she has into spiritual.
Okay, so therefore, as you're saying, she is simultaneously seeing people as devotees. She just wants to extract the materialistic contamination from those relationships only. Right?
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Okay, and seeing in the darkness, doesn't that mean to see relationships or anything at all from a conditioned consciousness, or no?
Can you come again?
When we use that phrase, seeing in the darkness, does that mean that we're seeing people or relationships or anything from the standpoint of a conditioned consciousness?
Yeah.
So, like in relationships, you would see your relationship only from a bodily perspective. That's seeing
it
the
could
darkness,
be anybody.
right?
It could be with anyone. Even sometimes it could be with our spiritual teachers, but we can approach them from a perspective of ego, and that is still not very stable. It's not
Yes.
going to elevate us.
Yeah, so seeing in the darkness means to see things in ignorance, actually, no?
Through ego. I'm this body, and
Yeah.
through that ego and identity that we have developed for ourselves in this world.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Hare
And thank you, Keshav Madhav Prabhu. Yeah, it's a regular story. It's a regular story in living with devotees, especially in those days. Oh my God, it's a constant background theme.